Welcome back to Movies TV Man. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Man, and welcome to Saturday's edition of the DCEU Daily. A little bit later on the show, I'll have all your DCEU updates. But first, Zack Snyder versus Joss Whedon. You know, I kind of understand the decision making and thinking behind dispersing with Zack Snyder's services on Justice League. I don't agree with the decision, but I do know the corporate entity of the entertainment industry is somewhat reactive, and the reactions to Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad put them in an impossible situation. In terms of business, it was a terrible situation to disperse with Zack Snyder's, services in the middle of him just finishing Justice League. But I understand that they were panicked and they didn't know what to do. But the best business decision would have been to let him finish his arc, then disperse with the man's services. Maybe Kevin Sugihara was too busy on the casting couch to take any notice of what good business practices are. But in terms of Joss Whedon and what he did to Zack's vision, that's somewhat disgusting, immoral and underhand to me. Why? Because he's a fellow creative, he's a fellow writer-director. And to do what he did to Zack's creative vision, I just don't know any creatives out there. I've been to film school, I've been to drama school. A lot of my friends are creative people, and I don't know one of them who agrees with this. And why did he do it? Because he wanted his 30 pieces of silver, and his 30 pieces of silver was to make a Batgirl movie, something he always dreamed of doing. But instead of doing it the right way, he was told, do this, do it the way we want you to do it, and you get your Batgirl movie. Of course, no one thought that what Joss Whedon was going to do to Justice League within the halls of power at Warner Brothers Pictures was going to end up so badly. They didn't think that making the man reshoot and rewrite a movie rushed, having the same schedule as Zack Snyder's Justice League movie in, November of 2017, was going to cause problems, because these were big changes. They wanted to change the colour palette. They wanted more gags. They wanted a quick and easy 1 hour and 59 minute movie, not even 2 hours, because the length was everything to them to get more people in between viewings. They got it wrong. And these are professional people running one of the biggest, most proudest, legacy studios in the world today. They didn't just get it wrong. They got it so wrong. They were in a situation, really they were in a no-win situation. But for me, Joss Whedon actually coming in and saying, yeah, I'm happy to do this. And I don't want to hate on Joss, because a lot of things have been said about Joss now. The people he worked with on Buffy and Angel have said a lot of serious things. One was about a young actress not being able to be left alone with him. And we don't really know what the context is there, so we have to be very, very careful. Was it because he was so shouty and aggressive towards her? Or was there another element to it? I mean, we are in Hollywood, that wouldn't be a surprise, but who knows what all this means? So it's best if we leave that over there and talk about the morality of Joss Whedon actually coming in and doing what he did to Zack's vision. A fellow creative. There's, amongst us creatives, there's rules. There's moral views. You don't mess with someone's vision. He came in, took someone's vision to pieces, and was okay with it. Didn't have any sleepless nights about it. I remember him being on a DC Daily, an official DC Comics Daily video, kind of mocking the Snyder Cut as well. So this is a man who had no guilt about what he did. So this is terrible, toxic behaviour. I mean, they call us toxic, the Restore the Snyder, let me get the words out straight. The Restore the Snyderverse community and the Release the Snyder Cut community. Apparently we're toxic fans, but his behaviour was totally acceptable. He came in, with a bulldozer. Imagine it's a building. Zack Snyder's built a hotel. And he gets his bulldozer and smashes it. But Zack Snyder's hotel was built very carefully and very constructively. Joss Whedon's hotel had iffy foundations. And that's why his hotel fell to pieces very quickly. Because it wasn't even his vision. It was the vision of Kevin Sugihara and Jeff Johns. And all they were doing really is following the MCU. Now, whether you approve of the way the MCU and Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige do things, that's their thing. It works for them and the people that watch it and love it, and that's fair enough. But we discussed this before, haven't we? You can't steal the secret recipe to Coca-Cola. It doesn't work. They were so naive in a way. They thought they could have a few gags, have it under 2 hours, and it would work for them. Although they kind of got the copying and pasting wrong of the MCU anyway. Most MCU movies are well over 2 hours, by the way. Most of them coming in at 2 hours 10 to 2 hours 20 minutes. The early ones, I think, were around 2 hours a bit more. So there was a misunderstanding about what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. The first Iron Man is fun and funny with bright colours, but it's also got some dark commentary, and it's got commentary about war and building weapons for profit. Big commentary, right? Iron Man 2 is about evolution, you know, and I mean, the first Captain America is about a hero. So there is some strong nuance to a lot of the MCU films, and people kind of like to ignore that. So Kevin Sugihara and Jeff Johns had a misunderstanding about what the Marvel Cinematic Universe actually is, because Justice League is nothing like that. You look at Justice League, a film that's got to go in a new direction for this franchise, but still has to finish off a storyline started off in Man of Steel and BVS, and they do it badly. First of all, they think they can ignore Darkseid, which is the dumbest decision ever. Joss Whedon knows about comics, he understands comics, so you would have thought he would have said, you know what guys, we can't be ignoring Darkseid. Zack set something up here. You know, we can't be ignoring the nightmare future. You know, this is a setup. But they didn't want to deal with that stuff because they didn't want to deal with it in the future. They thought they could disperse of Zack's services, bring in someone else, and everything would be all right. In a lot of ways, I think what they would have got away with, and it would have been difficult, is just kind of knock the Justice League movie on its head for the time being. Don't make it, don't reshoot it, don't rewrite it. You don't want Zack's vision, leave it alone. Of course, the big problem they had was Zack had killed off Superman at the end of BVS. So there needed to be a resolution to that. Of course, if they were smart people, and I'm talking about Sugihara, Johns, and WB in general, and Whedon, they could have made a Man of Steel sequel to deal with Superman's death, and then slowly have cameos for the other Justice League members. But these weren't even smart people. They didn't even want to destroy Zack's vision in a constructive way and go their own way. They wanted to release a Justice League movie because, of course, a Justice League movie should mean huge profits. And that's what they were thinking about, but it didn't work. When you do the wrong thing in life, you know, in life when people do the wrong things, in the end they do get punished. And Justice League was their ultimate consequence. You cannot rush a movie. You cannot go back to the drawing board. They didn't even really go back to the drawing board. They were using the man's vision, but they kind of changed it. Because basically, it's interesting as well, because you look at the complaints about the Snyderverse, and then they took those complaints. Basically, they decided to allow Twitter to decide what a cinematic franchise should be. And they decided to listen to critics and pundits. And critics and pundits mostly have never been involved in the industry before, and they don't understand. Snyder had a vision. That vision needed to be finished by Snyder. We wouldn't be in this mess today if they actually did that. As I said, keeping Snyder to finish his arc is a good business practice. And bringing in Joss Whedon is a nightmare because Whedon isn't invested in any of what he's doing. So Whedon, comes to the reshoots. His attitude is all wrong towards the actors and the people on the set and the crew. So already he's got a bad attitude because he doesn't want to work with them because he didn't choose them. And they certainly don't want to work with him, but he makes it worse. And then the clashes with Ray Fisher happened because Ray Fisher was very loyal to what Zack wanted. Well, Zack wasn't there anymore. Whedon's saying to him, look, pal, this is new. This is a new world now. Forget Snyder. I'm doing it my way. But you're not even doing it your way, Joss. So because Ray Fisher's a tenacious young actor, he was fighting for the cause of Snyder. He was fighting for the soul of the Snyderverse. The problem was there was no one there in power, including Joss Whedon, that was interested in, continuing the Snyderverse. So Ray Fisher was fighting a losing battle. And ultimately, it got nasty because the cast and crew were fighting against Whedon. Whedon had to do this to get his Batgirl movie. I'll give you an update on Batgirl a little bit later on as well. So it was never going to work out. But Joss Whedon never thought for one moment that this film would be as big a disaster as it would be. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because Joss Whedon had a great, reputation pre-Justice League. And you would have thought that the audience would have embraced his vision and just gone there. But the opening was crap. Before people even saw the movie, the opening was crap. That actually tells you that people were excited to see what Snyder was doing, even with the divisive reaction to BVS and MOS and Suicide Squad. People were interested. And the audience are so clued up today that they knew that he was not Zack Snyder's friend, that he wasn't going to continue the vision, and something was going on. And the audience ultimately didn't even go to the opening before they knew what kind of film it was. Now, the initial reactions from Access Media were interesting because, Warner Brothers had treated them, had thrown the red carpet at them just so they could give a good initial reaction. And the reactions weren't slaughtering like they were for BVS, but although the initial reactions for BVS were pretty promising as well. But the point being, normally initial reactions are not scathing, but you can read between the lines when critics and Access Media are not going to give a film a good write-up. And even the reviews were positive sometimes, saying that Joss Whedon had got the characters right, that they interacted well with each other. It's all about opinions, of course. I would give more credit to the actors for holding it together. I mean, you've got to feel sorry for the actors in this situation because they were cast by Zack. There was a vision that they were well behind. And then Whedon comes in and changes it. It's not even a vision. It's just, we need to get this done. And that's it. And Justice League is just a mess of a movie. And when you think about Joss Whedon doing what he did to Zack's vision, you think, what kind of a creative does that? Even when Ron Howard came in to do Solo, at least he made a cohesive picture. And yeah, he maybe wouldn't have made it the way the two Lego movie guys did, but still, there was no dirty talk, and it was a cohesive movie. Look, the film would have been a flop, whoever made it, because nobody asked for a Solo movie anyway. No one wants to see anyone play Han Solo but Harrison Ford. And if he doesn't want to do it, just don't do it. But Justice League is a situation how not to react to negative reactions to a movie franchise. It will be like Kevin Feige hearing the reactions to Chloe Zhao's Eternals and all of a sudden firing her and not using any of her Eternal characters again. Icarus. It's like people saying we don't like Icarus, and then Icarus never getting his movie, right? It's like Henry Cavill. Where is Henry Cavill's Superman? They benched him. Why? Because they blamed him for Justice League when it wasn't even his fault. They punished Cavill because he wasn't allowed to shave his tash off. They punished Cavill because he was making Mission Impossible Fallout. And a lot of the problems with the movie that people noticed straight away was the upper lip CGI. So Cavill got punished for this, when it wasn't even his fault. It's not Cavill's fault he moved on to another project. It's not Cavill's fault they decided to sack Zack Snyder and do reshoots. But he took the brunt of the blame. You look at Jason Momoa, right? He's still Aquaman. Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman. But Cavill's Man of Steel, well, we haven't seen him since Justice League, have we? I know we saw him in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that was filmed several years earlier. And so it seems like Cavill has really paid for a lot of the consequences. I mean, Ray Fisher talks about racism and things like that. But you know, Henry Cavill, a straight white male, is the one who's been punished the most in this. Where's his Superman? Now, he kind of sounds like we've got more Superman to come in cameos and maybe a movie in the future. But he certainly was punished for what happened with Justice League. And that isn't fair. I just feel you kind of get Warner Brothers' point of view. I still think it was a bad decision, dispersing of Snyder's services, but you understand that they made the decision, it was a bad decision, but the pressure was immense on them. But when you come to a creative, you can't be disrespecting another creative's vision like Joss Whedon did. Staying on the subject of the Snyderverse, Joe Manganiello has been discussing his future as Deathstroke in the DCEU. Joe Manganiello doesn't think he'll play DCEU's Deathstroke again, which of course is very, very sad news. Joe Manganiello reveals he doesn't think he'll play the DC Extended Universe's Deathstroke again, and expressing he's let go of the role by Grant Hermans of Screen Rant, which would say that he's not in the Flash movie. Of course, he could be saying this for effect. We don't know. Let's have a look. Joe Manganiello reveals he doesn't think he'll play the DC Extended Universe's Deathstroke again, expressing he's let go of the role. Created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, first made his debut in DC Comics world with 1980s. The new Teen Titans, under the slightly different name Deathstroke, the Terminator Wilson is a skilled assassin who was the volunteer for a government experiment that granted him superhuman abilities, including enhanced intelligence, strength, agility, speed, durability, and stamina. Heightened his senses and allowed him further mastery of his swordsman and marksman skills. Deathstroke is one of the most iconic villains of the DC Comics world, serving primarily as an arch-enemy to the Teen Titans, namely Dick Grayson, while also acting as an antagonist to Batman, Green Arrow and the Justice League. The character has been adapted for both film and television, most notably in the animated Teen Titans series voiced by Ron Perlman, as well as in the CW's Arrowverse portrayed by Manu Bennett. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I actually think Manu Bennett's version on Arrow is the best live-action version, in my opinion. And HBO Max series Titans, played by Eze Morales. Deathstroke made his cinematic debut in the post-credits scene of the theatrical cut of Justice League, establishing a future for him in the DCEU, with Manganiello donning the mantle, though now it seems plans may have changed. While speaking with ComingSoon.net for the animated fantasy epic The Spine of Night, Manganiello reflected on his time as the DCEU's Deathstroke, and we've barely seen him. When asked whether he would reprise his role of the iconic assassin after Zack Snyder's Justice League, Manganiello revealed he has let go of the character and likely won't play him again. See what Manganiello said below. No, I've let that go a while ago. Interesting, because a few months ago he was singing another tune, so who knows, you've got to take him at his word at the end of the day. Since making his DCEU debut in the theatrical cut of Justice League, Manganiello's Deathstroke has been a point of anticipation amongst audiences for the potential he brought to the role. The actor was subsequently attached to a variety of projects in the franchise, including serving as an antagonist for the Batman when it was still to be directed by and starring Ben Affleck, as well as his own solo film from writer-director Gareth Evans. Due to the troubled nature of Justice League resulting in a shift of direction from Warner Brothers and DC Films, Deathstroke's DCEU future seemed darker by the minute. Though his return in Zack Snyder's Justice League earlier this year and Manganiello's statements that there were discussions at the studio for several projects involving Snyder and the character left some hopeful. For those who were hoping that Manganiello would get to return as the DCEU's Deathstroke, be it a solo film or his HBO Max origin story series idea, are sure to be disappointed to hear he has let go of the role. Given the rocky nature of development Manganiello was privy to during his time in the DCEU, it's understandable he would elect to move on to other things rather than keep waiting for the studio to green light to come back. While his DCEU future is seemingly over, audiences can at least look forward to Manganiello reuniting with Snyder for Netflix's Army of the Dead Las Vegas animated series set to premiere in spring 2022. Well, it's not the same thing really. I'm glad him and Zack are reuniting and working together again, but it's not the same thing and it doesn't really excite me a fucking all. This of course is very disappointing, but it doesn't really tell you anywhere, it doesn't tell you anything apart from he doesn't expect to play the character again. Would he play the character if he was offered it? Of course he would. So, but these are the consequences with dispersing with Zack Snyder's services, and this is what happens. You've got this poor actor who's come in thinking he's going to do loads of movies, cameos, being the Batman. Would have been awesome, wouldn't it? And then Ben's gone, Zack's gone, and he's gone as well. So maybe they've got new plans for Deathstroke. Please don't give Deathstroke to James Gunn. He'll just make him a fucking comedy character. No, please, look what he did to King Shark. But it's looking like he thinks he hasn't got a chance of doing this. But also, he could be doing it to get a reaction from us. Maybe he thinks we'll do a little event on Twitter. Save Deathstroke, save the Deathstroke movie. I don't know. We've got to keep on fighting because new leadership is coming to Warner Brothers Pictures and things can change just like that. New Batgirl movie set photo teases Ezra Miller's The Flash connection. Interesting. Warner Brothers is deep into production on multiple new projects coming to the DC Extended Universe over the next few years, some of which are premiering on HBO Max. Included in the streaming schedule is Leslie Grace's Batgirl, which will expand heavily on the Caped Crusader's legacy within the DCEU, by featuring a heroine that's finally taking her place in the ranks of DC's biggest heroes. The movie features Ms. Marvel directing duo Adi El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, so they're doing Miss Marvel as well. Wow, they're getting themselves around on their second comic book project. Although very little is known about the film's actual plot, they will lead the way on Barbara Gordon's first true live-action solo project, which also stars other major players such as Jacob Scipio and 90s icon Brendan Fraser. He's a bit of a 21st century icon again now, actually, but great casting. The big question about Batgirl is how it will fit in alongside the rest of its DCEU counterparts, particularly with it being confirmed for an HBO Max release rather than a traditional theatrical run. In regard to that question, the film's composer may have provided an answer with a recent social media post. Interesting. Natalie Holt teases Batgirl Flash connection. Now this is interesting. Batgirl composer Natalie Holt posted an image of a Gotham City Police Department uniform on her Twitter page from the set of the new HBO Max movie. Holt later deleted this post. So this is interesting. Police Department, City of Gotham. Let's have a look. So I'm sure you've seen this floating about, and if you haven't, there you go, and you're welcome. So yeah, Police Department, City of Gotham, but what? That's not a Flash connection, is it? The logo for the GCPD is the same logo fans have seen from set photos for Warner Brothers' The Flash, which can be seen in the tweet below from Flash Film News. Yes, this is interesting. So what does this mean? Yes, as you can see in the Flash set location where they got some sneaky pics here, it's the same badge. So what does this mean? Well, I think it's pretty I mean, obviously it could mean many things because Batfleck is in this movie. So it could just mean that they're using that badge because Ben Affleck's Batman is in this movie. And this bit is actually set in Gotham City. It looks like. No, not looks like. It definitely is. Now, could we actually see Batgirl in the Flash movie as well? It's very probable, but at this moment in time, all I'm going to say is you would see this Gotham police badge because there's a bit in Gotham with a big car chase between Batman and some villains in the Flash movie. The DC Extended Universe has done its best to create an interconnected franchise built on its unique solo stories, the same way Marvel Studios has done with the MCU since 2008. Well, Zack Snyder tried to do that, but then, when he left, they went away from the interconnected vision. But, to be fair to them, they're trying to be interconnected with the relaunch of the DCEU. With Warner Brothers now pushing to extend that universe into the streaming world, the status of movies like Batgirl came into question thanks to the HBO Max release strategy. Even though no details have been revealed about the plot of Batgirl, this image seems to indicate that the franchise is looking to put Batgirl in the same universe as Ezra Miller's Flash and Ben Affleck's Batman. Yes, now, this is an interesting one. Obviously, Commissioner Jim Gordon is supposed to be her father. We think, right? No, he has to be, right? So you would then assume that Batfleck is the Batman of her world as well. But who knows? If he vanishes and Keaton is now the Batman of Earth 1 Gotham City, that may not be the case. We're just going to have to wait and see. This also isn't Natalie Holt's first time teasing something like this. After sharing a behind-the-scenes video from one of her most recent projects, Marvel Studios' Disney Plus show Loki. Using the same exact GCPD logo in both The Flash and Batgirl seems to be more than just a coincidence, particularly with fans curious to see how this universe pushes its borders. Of course, with Batgirl still in the earlier stages of filming, confirmation of its status within the same universe as The Flash likely won't come for some time. These pictures do seem to point in the right direction on that front, though with such similar imagery finding its way to the public eye, Batgirl is currently filming and will release on HBO Max. So very interesting. Look, I think it's pretty obvious that Batgirl is DCEU Earth 1 and she's in the same Earth and the same Gotham as Batfleck. And we know that J.K. Simmons is going to play her father, Jim Gordon. So the only way that Batfleck wouldn't be the Batman is if they reset something in Flashpoint, in the Flashpoint movie, and it's Keaton's Batman who's the main Batman now, and not Affleck. We'll have to wait and see. I can't say, even though it looks like it's all set on the same Earth and all connected, I can't say beyond reasonable doubt that Affleck is going to be the Batman in the Batgirl. It's looking likely, but who knows what's going on. Yes, let's talk about Peacemaker. Peacemaker trailer shows John Cena and team fighting multiple villains. HBO Max releases a new Peacemaker trailer giving a deeper look at the DC Extended Universe series a month ahead of its debut on the streamer by Grant Hermans of Screen Rant. HBO Max releases a new Peacemaker trailer giving a deeper look at the DC Extended Universe series a month ahead of its debut. Based on the DC Comics character of the same name, the show serves as a spin-off to the recently released The Suicide Squad. James Gunn, who wrote and directed the standalone DCEU sequel, created and wrote the 8-episode Peacemaker series and helmed 5 of its Season 1 episodes. Peacemaker takes place after the events of The Suicide Squad, in which the titular protagonist was nearly killed by Bloodsport for trying to kill Ratcatcher 2 and prevent the truth about Starro leaking to the public. John Cena returns to the lead cast of Peacemaker alongside fellow Suicide Squad stars Steve Agee and Jennifer Holland and the DCEU newcomers Danny L. Brooks, Robert Patrick, Freddie Stromer, Chuck Woogie and Lockley Munro. Gunn began development on Peacemaker during the post-production on Suicide Squad and after a fast filming schedule from January to July 2021. He and his team are gearing up to bring the show to audiences in January. Following its showing at San Diego Comic-Con, HBO Max has released a new Peacemaker trailer. The video reveals a titular character's mission to track down mysterious targets known as butterflies. Well, that doesn't give anything away, does it? While also teasing the emotional growth the character will undergo through the season. Check out the trailer below. The new Peacemaker trailer offers the most in-depth look at the Suicide Squad series, namely the team's mission to track down various targets known as butterflies, which appear to include people with some kind of superhuman abilities. The video also offers an interesting look at the emotional growth Cena's titular hero is undergoing in the series after being left for dead by Bloodsport in Jotunheim, a moment his dad hilariously deflects in the trailer. The very antagonistic relationship between Peacemaker and his dad should offer an interesting insight into why the titular character was as apathetic as he was in the Suicide Squad and the years prior to the film. Since electing to include the character in the Suicide Squad, Gunn has expressed his interest in exploring the douchey side of the character while also teasing that Peacemaker itself will dive deeper into his backstory and offer him a chance to grow. The new Peacemaker trailer certainly looks to be a good indication of his efforts to learn from his past mistakes, namely in his restraint to kill a kid despite his funny devotion to not caring how many men, women and children he has to kill. To achieve peace in the DCEU film, the wait for Peacemaker is nearly over, as the series is set to premiere on HBO Max on January the 13th. If you live in America, Mexico, certain countries in Europe, I'm in Europe, I don't have access to HBO Max, so hopefully at some point I can buy it on Amazon Video or something like that, but it's something I'm going to have to wait for. So, as you can tell from my attitude, this is probably my least kind of looking forward to DCEU live action project of 2022. But I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, I can't be bothered with this. I think there's more to this series than meets the eye, because James Gunn has already told us it's very connected with the rest of the DCEU. Don't be surprised if we see some very big cameos in this series. It's set in the DCEU world. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of his members of the Suicide Squad in this limited series as well, so expect to see that. But the Peacemaker series is about an evolution of a character who's this kind of douchey, alt-right kind of character who's willing to kill children and anyone to get to his objective. He killed Rick Flag to cover up a secret. So what he's doing is not really protecting peace, he's really protecting the highest bidder. And so what we're going to see in this series is the evolution of the character, learning from his mistakes. Him not killing the kid I found very emotional, very deep and very interesting. So even though it's not the thing I'm looking forward to the most, I still think it could be a very, very satisfactory DC live action project. And finally today, Black Adam magazine cover reveals close-up look at The Rock's DCEU villain. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson shares a new close-up look at Black Adam as his DCEU villain graces the magazine cover of Total Film's December issue. So it's hype train now. It's interesting because kind of the hype starting early for this film. So I think this film, now I said that Peacemaker isn't one I'm looking forward to too much, but I think it will be okay. But Black Adam is one of my favourite DCEU kind of ones that I'm looking forward to. I just think it's all part of the Shazam franchise. I think it's so exciting. And it's exciting to have The Rock in the DC Extended Universe as well, don't you think? So, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson shares a new close-up look at Black Adam as his DCEU villain graces the magazine cover of Total Film's December issue by Cooper Hood of Screen Rant. A new magazine cover for Black Adam shows a close-up look at Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's DC Extended Universe villain. It's been more than a decade since Dwayne Johnson agreed to play Black Adam for Warner Brothers and DC Films. Plans for him to be Shazam's villain would change though. To give one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars a solo movie instead makes sense, right? Black Adam will be where Johnson makes his highly anticipated DCEU debut, which Johnson repeatedly teases will change the hierarchy of the shared universe forever. We'll see about that, Black Adam. Due to the interest in seeing The Rock play a comic book character, he frequently offered fans a glimpse at the Black Adam production process. However, it wasn't until DC Fandom 2021 that audiences got an official look at Johnson's take on the DC villain anti-hero. The first Black Adam teaser trailer showed Black Adam reawakening in the present day, thousands of years after he battled the Shazam wizard and used his own power to rule the fictional nation of Kardhak. It was in this footage that Johnson's Black Adam costume was finally put on display, as was his willingness to ruthlessly kill those who oppose him. Yeah, I must say, it seems that Johnson and the people making that film really wanted to show us in that teaser that it's a dark film. I like that, because he's a dark character. Even though Black Adam isn't scheduled to be released in theatres until next summer, some more early promotional material has now been released. Dwayne Johnson helped debut the new Total Film subscribers only cover for the magazine's December issue, which features a close-up look at Black Adam. The cover came with possible line of dialogue from the movie, as Johnson's tweet sharing the cover said, "You're right, superheroes don't kill bad people, but I do." I love that. That's great. Black Adam. Check out the new look at The Rock's DCEU villain below. Could he be talking to Superman as he's saying this in the Black Adam movie? I hope so. So this is what it looks like. Here's the picture. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think the expression, the eyes, this is Black Adam. The Rock taking this totally seriously, as he should. This is the closest look yet at Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. As the cover highlights, the yellow glow of his eyes. Previous teases for Black Adam either came through concept art or set photos shared by Johnson, which obviously didn't include any visual effects enhancements. The Black Adam teaser didn't even include a clear look at The Rock's face, as it's primarily focused on establishing a haunting atmosphere and the ruthlessness of this new DCEU villain. Now that Black Adam is already on the front of a magazine cover, it is possible that Warner Brothers and DC Films are preparing to really kick off the film's marketing campaign. I think this must be one of the most earliest promotional campaigns for a movie I've ever seen. I haven't seen anything like this so early since Tim Burton's Batman '89. Which I think they were promoting for about a year. They haven't been doing this with Black Adam, but it's early, and I think it's out in June, July, something. So we've got a while yet. So it's interesting that they're pushing this already, but I also think it's very exciting. It is the next DC movie on WB's slate that needs a trailer, since the Batman already has had 2 trailers, and DC League of Super Pets, which also stars Johnson as Krypto the Superdog, also got its first trailer recently. WB does have one of 2021's most anticipated movie releases on the horizon, with The Matrix Resurrections hitting theatres and HBO Max in a few weeks. It's possible that they have plans to debut the first official Black Adam trailer before then. Yeah, this is what normally happens. You get the posters and stuff, then you get a trailer. So we've had a teaser, now we're going to get a full trailer, which I can't wait for it. And we'll react to properly. We'll see the trailer together, then I'll discuss it with you. So I can't wait. By the end of this year, we could have a full, 3-minute Black Adam trailer, which would be awesome. But just before I go to that, I think this is interesting, because we have this fight to restore the Snyderverse, which I'm 100% behind. But I'm also supporting these 6 DCEU movies and projects next year, because ultimately, everyone, I'm a DC stan. I love Zack Snyder as a DCEU director, but I wouldn't say I'm a Zack Snyder purist. I'm not just here for Zack. I'm not just going to leave behind what's going on with the DCEU now. So I want to fight for the Snyderverse, and I will. And I mean that. I love Zack. I love his DCEU movies. I want to see more. I want his arc and vision completed. But I'm also not going to boycott this stuff. And I want to be clear about that. So I'm honest. So maybe if you may not want to watch my videos anymore because of that. But that's who I am and what I am. But what is the consequence for Restore the Snyderverse if this new vision for the DC Extended Universe actually works? People embrace the Batman. People embrace Black Adam. Now the Flash is the important one. This is the one that everything rides on, really. Now I've said the new kind of vision for the DCEU can coexist with the restoration of the Snyderverse. No question about that. But it's interesting because the Flash has to work for this future to work. Because if this reboot, which is the Flash movie, doesn't work, they don't have a franchise anymore. And then what happens? You know, your guess is as good as mine. So all this has to work. These have to be well-reviewed movies. They have to make a lot of money. Next year is a huge year. But what does success for these movies mean for Restore the Snyderverse? Well, you shouldn't think, just because if these movies are successful, that this hurts Restore the Snyderverse. No, keep on going. Now, what does it mean if these movies fail? Does it help or hinder the Snyderverse? I actually think it hinders the restoration of the Snyderverse, because even though they're kind of rebooting the franchise, it's still nothing's going to be forgotten, as Andy Muschietti keeps on, poor bloke, trying to remind us. So it's still part of the same thing. And I think it would hurt the restoration of the Snyderverse, because yes, you could tell his arc and you could just complete that story, but there's nothing there. It's hollow. It means less. You could still do it, and we'd all, including me, especially me, keep on fighting for it. But I think the best thing for everyone is to have a really successful, popular DC Extended Universe with great movies and television projects, and Zack Snyder doing his thing on a parallel universe with Restore the Snyderverse. And for now, Justice League 2 and 3, we'll have to see how this all plays out. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye.